It happened last month, and I still haven't quite processed all of it. My name is Caleb. I'm 35, single dad to a 6-year-old girl named Emma, and apparently, according to my own father, not real family. Let me rewind. I grew up in a pretty average suburban household. My dad, Kenneth, is a man who's always been obsessed with appearances, sharp suits, shiny cars, the works. He wasn't exactly warm, but he played the part of the respectable family man well. My mom, Julia, was quieter, more reserved, but the kind of woman who'd smile through anything for the sake of peace. I have one sibling, my older sister, Claire. She was the golden child, no question about it. Straight A's, varsity soccer, got into Stanford, married young, had 3 picture-perfect kids with her picture-perfect husband, Nick. She and Dad, thick as thieves. Me? I was the what are you doing with your life child. I didn't go to college. I tried music, tried real estate, finally landed in IT consulting, which actually pays well, but it's not something my dad brags about. He still introduces me as the one who works with computers or something. When my ex left 3 years ago, Dad's first reaction wasn't concern. It was, well, maybe now you'll get your act together. Raising Emma on my own has been the most exhausting and beautiful experience of my life. She's got this wild mess of curly hair, eyes like her mother's, and a laugh that can crack through the worst of days. She's sensitive, observant, and far too empathetic for a world like this. But to my family, she's often an afterthought. I started noticing it a few years back. At Christmas, everyone's gifts were piled high, and Emma would get a generic sweater or some cheap toy from the dollar bin, while Claire's kids were opening iPads and bikes. I brushed it off, told myself not to make a big deal. Maybe I didn't want to see it. Maybe part of me thought if I just kept showing up, they'd warm to us. That if I gave it time, my dad would stop looking at Emma like she was some uncomfortable truth he didn't want to face. But everything came to a head 2 weeks ago at my niece Lily's birthday party. She was turning 8, and Claire had planned this over-the-top princess-themed bash. One of those rented venue, hired performer, balloon arch, unicorn cake affairs. I hesitated when the invite came, not because of the event, but because I could already hear my dad's commentary. He hated that I was mooching off my kid's cuteness to avoid a real relationship. Yes, that's a direct quote. Still, Emma was excited. She picked out a sparkly dress and made a homemade card for Lily, complete with glitter that ended up all over my dashboard. We even stopped at the toy store to buy Lily a new art kit she'd been talking about at the last family dinner. Emma handed it to her herself, smiling ear to ear. The party was fine. A little performative, a lot of polite small talk, Claire flitting from table to table like the hostess of the year. I mostly sat back and watched Emma try to blend in with her cousins, who were all a little older, a little louder. My dad was there, of course, Kenneth, in a gray blazer even in 80-degree weather, drink in hand, laughing loudly with Nick and some of his golf buddies. Then came the moment that snapped something inside me. It was nearing the end of the party, and Dad stood near the cake table with a big sack of gift bags. He made this show of calling the kids over. "Okay, time for a surprise from Grandpa," he announced, like some game show host. One by one, each kid ran up and got a little wrapped toy, handpicked and labeled. Emma waited patiently, clutching her empty paper plate. She was near the back of the line, but still beaming. When she got to him, Dad didn't even look at her, just paused, glanced at me, and then said, loud enough for the nearby parents to hear, "Sorry, sweetie. This is for real family only." Real family only. Emma froze. Her hands dropped to her sides. I saw her bottom lip tremble as she slowly looked up at me, her brown eyes wide and confused. She didn't say anything. She didn't have to. I felt my stomach drop. There it was. The truth, finally spoken out loud, like a slap. For a second, I was frozen too. I didn't scream. I didn't yell. I just walked over, took Emma's hand, and said, "Come on, baby." Then we left. No goodbye. No explanation. No scene. We sat in the car for a few minutes before I could even turn the key. Emma was quiet, staring out the window, her cheeks blotchy with the kind of tears she was trying not to let me see. I buckled her in, and on the way home, she whispered, "Did I do something wrong, Daddy?" That nearly broke me. I put her to bed early that night. She fell asleep with her stuffed giraffe clutched tight and the party dress still on. I didn't have the heart to change it. At 10:34 p.m., my phone lit up with a text from my dad. Don't come around anymore if you're going to act like that. I stared at it for a long time. Then I typed back 4 words. Perfect. Keep my money. 10 minutes later, the family group chat lit up in chaos. Claire chimed in first. What did you say to Dad? Then Nick. We don't need drama right now, Caleb. It was Lily's day. Mom finally spoke up too. Let's just talk tomorrow, please. But it was the silence from Dad that was the loudest. No explanation. No apology. Nothing. And as I sat there, scrolling through the messages, watching them twist the narrative, make me out to be the problem, as always, I felt something shift inside me. Not rage. Not sadness. Resolve. They'd drawn a line in the sand. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like running from it. I felt like stepping right over it and taking the whole damn beach with me. I didn't respond to the group chat that night. I just watched the messages pile up like a slow-motion car crash. Claire accused me of overreacting. Nick suggested I set a better example for Emma and my mom. Always the peacekeeper, tried to smooth things over with vague platitudes like, let's just move forward, and family means forgiving. Not once did anyone ask how Emma was doing. Not once did anyone mention the words my dad said. It was as if the actual offense never happened, only my reaction to it. Typical. I didn't sleep much. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Emma's face at the party, how quickly her smile fell, how she turned to me like I'd have an explanation that made it all make sense. And I had nothing. Nothing except a rage that simmered beneath my skin like acid. The next morning, I muted the group chat and got Emma ready for school. She was quiet, but not sad. She's the kind of kid who processes things by pretending they didn't happen, something I recognize a little too well in her. As I buckled her into her booster seat, she finally looked at me and asked, "Will Grandpa ever like me?" I swear my heart cracked in half. I told her what I wish someone had told me at her age. You're incredible, just the way you are. If someone can't see that, it's their fault, not yours. She nodded and gave me a tiny smile, the kind that says she doesn't fully believe me, but wants to. After dropping her off, I sat in the parking lot and stared at the steering wheel for a long time. I knew things were broken. What I didn't know yet was how deep the crack really went. The next few weeks were oddly quiet. No invitations, no texts, no passive-aggressive links to family brunches or Claire's Facebook posts about her beautiful tribe. Fine by me. I focused on work, spent more time with Emma, and honestly, things felt lighter, calmer. For the first time in a long while, I wasn't making excuses for people who clearly didn't care about me. Until my mom called. It was a Wednesday afternoon, and I was in the middle of helping Emma with her math homework when the phone buzzed. "Caleb," she said, voice soft and practiced. "Can we talk?" I hesitated. "About what?" "Your father's birthday is next weekend. We're doing a little get-together. Just family. I know things have been tense, but I think it would mean a lot if you came. For my sake." I stared at the phone in disbelief. "You mean the man who told my daughter she wasn't real family? That guy?" She sighed. "He didn't mean it like that." "Then how did he mean it, Mom? Spell it out for me." There was a pause, and then, "You've always been sensitive, Caleb." I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was just so on brand. Anytime I've ever spoken up, that's been the response. Sensitive. Overreacting. Making a scene. I was done being told my feelings were the problem. "I'm not coming," I said. "And neither is Emma. I'm not putting her in that position again." Another pause. Then, "I just thought maybe you'd moved on by now." "I have," I said. "That's why we won't be there." And I hung up. But that was just the warm-up. The real breaking point was still coming, and I didn't see it until it hit like a train. About a week later, on the Saturday of the birthday party, I took Emma to the zoo. We spent the whole day eating overpriced pretzels, laughing at the flamingos, and taking silly selfies by the tiger enclosure. It was exactly the kind of day I needed to prove to myself that I was doing the right thing, choosing peace over performance. That night, after Emma fell asleep, I opened Facebook. Big mistake. Claire had posted an album, Dad's Big Day. I don't know why I clicked it. Maybe I wanted to feel vindicated. Maybe I was hoping they all looked miserable without us. What I saw instead made my chest tighten. The first few pictures were standard. Dad grinning next to a cake shaped like a golf ball, Mom clapping, Nick raising a glass. Then came the group shots. Claire and her family. My parents. A few extended relatives I hadn't seen in years. And then a photo that made my stomach drop. Emma. Not my Emma, but a girl who looked eerily like her. Same curls. Similar height. wearing one of Claire's daughter's old dresses, standing awkwardly in front of Dad while he bent down to hand her a gift bag. I stared at it for a full minute before reading the caption beneath. Dad welcoming little Emily into the family. So special to have everyone here today. Emily. Claire had apparently invited a friend's daughter to the party. Someone who wasn't blood. Someone who, by all accounts, had nothing to do with our family. But she got a gift. She got a smile. She got inclusion. Emma got nothing. I felt physically sick. My first thought was that it had to be a mistake. Maybe they didn't mean it that way. Maybe. No. No more excuses. They'd replaced my daughter. Symbolically, maybe even intentionally. And then had the audacity to post it like some beautiful gesture of inclusion. It wasn't just disrespect anymore. It was cruelty. I closed the laptop and just sat there in silence, the room suddenly feeling smaller, tighter, like the air had been sucked out of it. For years, I tried to be the bigger person, tried to show up, tried to give my daughter a connection to a family that never really saw her as part of it. And now, I couldn't unsee that image. That little girl standing where Emma should have been, smiling next to a man who wouldn't even acknowledge his own granddaughter. It broke something in me. Not loudly, not dramatically, quietly, permanently. The next morning, I did something I never thought I would. I logged into our shared cloud drive. My parents had this thing where they kept all the family photos, documents, and backups in one place, accessible to everyone in the family. Years of memories, scanned albums, tax forms, even trust documents that Dad had once bragged about setting up. I downloaded everything. Every photo, every file, every document. Then I created my own private backup, just in case. And finally, I removed myself from the drive and revoked all access to anything that was shared through my account. Technically, the drive had been under my name, set up years ago when Dad didn't understand cloud storage and asked me to do it. I was the owner. They were guests. Not anymore. Within an hour, I got a frantic text from Claire. Why is the drive gone? Dad says he can't access anything. I stared at the screen. Breathe. Think. I didn't respond. Because in that moment, I wasn't ready to react. I was ready to plan. This wasn't going to be a messy outburst. This was going to be deliberate, thoughtful, calculated. If they thought excluding Emma came without consequences, they were about to learn just how wrong they were. And it was going to start with something simple. A will. One they didn't know existed. But I'll get to that. Because the next twist in this mess came from someone I never expected. And it changed everything. After that weekend, everything shifted. Not immediately. Not with a bang. But like a house that's been settling on a cracked foundation for too long, it finally gave way. The fallout from the cloud drive lockout was faster than I anticipated. My dad called me the next day. I didn't pick up. So he left a voicemail. That in itself was rare. Kenneth Lewis doesn't do voicemails. Usually it's one-word texts or group messages with zero punctuation. But this time, his voice was tight, controlled, like someone trying very hard not to yell. Caleb, I don't know what you think you're doing, but you're playing a dangerous game. That drive has important family records. Documents. Your mother's health insurance. We need it back. You're being petty and ridiculous. Fix it. Click. Not a single word about Emma. Not a single acknowledgement of what started this entire mess. Just threats. I deleted the voicemail. Claire followed up later that day with a string of texts. Claire, Dad says you're withholding legal documents? Are you trying to burn every bridge? Claire, this isn't just about you. You're affecting everyone. Claire, I don't even know who you are anymore. I read them in silence, my phone buzzing in my hand as she kept firing off messages, each more dramatic than the last. I didn't answer. And then nothing. Silence. Days passed. Then weeks. No more texts. No more calls. No contact at all. I should have felt relief. I wanted to. But instead, I found myself slipping. Not because I missed them. Not because I doubted my decision. But because I realized something terrifying. I had spent years trying to please people who never really saw me. Never really knew me. Not the real me. And when I finally stopped trying, there was nothing left in that space but emptiness. That's when the depression hit. It didn't come as tears or dramatic breakdowns. It came as stillness, numbness. I stopped shaving. I started eating cereal for dinner more nights than I care to admit. Work became something I phoned in. I canceled on friends, telling them I was just tired. And Emma, my sweet girl, she noticed. Of course she did. Are you sick, Daddy? She asked one morning, tilting her head as I sat on the couch in the same hoodie I'd worn for 3 days. No, baby. Just tired. She sat beside me and rested her head on my arm. You can rest on me, too, if you want. That moment broke me in a way nothing else had. My 6-year-old was trying to hold me up while I crumbled in silence. I waited until she fell asleep that night, then sat on the bathroom floor and cried. Not loud, just quietly, with my head in my hands. That was rock bottom. And then, without warning, came the shift. It wasn't some grand epiphany. No motivational video. No rousing speech in the mirror. It was a Tuesday. A regular, rainy Tuesday. I was sitting at my desk, staring blankly at my inbox when I got a call from an old client. He said he'd referred me to a friend of his who ran a mid-sized startup and needed an IT consultant ASAP. You're reliable, he said. Figured you'd do them right. I almost said no. I didn't have the energy. But something made me accept. That contract turned into the beginning of something new. Over the next month, that one job led to 3 more. And those led to a retainer offer. Then another. Before I knew it, I was rebuilding. Not just financially, but mentally. Work gave me structure. Focus. A reason to get up and shave. To put on real clothes again. To be someone Emma could look up to, not just love by default. I started going to the gym again. Slowly at first. 10 minutes on the treadmill. 15. Then weights. I cut back on the cereal dinners. Started cooking again. Nothing fancy, just grilled chicken and vegetables. But Emma noticed. You smell like broccoli again, she giggled one night at dinner. That's how I know you're okay. We started doing father-daughter Sundays. Zoo trips. Ice cream dates. Lazy movie marathons with popcorn in a blanket fort. And the more I poured into her, the more I found myself filling up, too. I signed her up for dance classes. Bought her a sparkly new backpack. Helped her decorate her room with glow-in-the-dark stars and fairy lights. She bloomed. Fully, unapologetically. And I realized something I hadn't allowed myself to see before. We were happy. Just the 2 of us. We didn't need them. The family who ignored us, rejected us, let them stay gone. But just when I thought we were finally in the clear, life sent another curveball. It was late October, a few days before Halloween. Emma wanted to be a space princess. Her words. And we'd spent the weekend gluing silver rhinestones to a pair of boots. I was cleaning up glitter when my phone rang. It was my mom. I hesitated, then answered. Caleb, she said softly. Her voice sounded off. Tired. Shaky. Hey, I said. What's going on? I didn't know who else to call, she whispered. Your father collapsed. They think it was a mini-stroke. He's in the hospital. I didn't say anything. She continued. Claire's out of town. Nick's dealing with something at work. I just needed someone. Old instincts kicked in. I grabbed my keys before I realized what I was doing. But then I stopped. And I remembered. Emma. The gift bags. The drive. The girl named Emily. The silence. I didn't move. Mom, I said carefully. Do you want me there because I'm your son? Or because I'm convenient? There was a pause. A long one. And then she said the most honest thing she's ever said to me. I don't know. The words hit like a gut punch, but they were true. Brutally, uncomfortably true. I'll check in tomorrow, I said. But I'm not rushing to a man who told my daughter she wasn't family. And I hung up. That night, I held Emma a little tighter as she drifted off to sleep in her starlit room. I stared at the ceiling and realized something I hadn't said out loud yet. I was done waiting for them to love us. We had our own version of family. And for the first time in my life, I didn't want to be part of theirs anymore. But fate wasn't finished. A few days later, a certified letter showed up at my door. It was from my grandfather's attorney. Apparently, before he passed 2 years ago, my grandfather had made some last-minute changes to his will. Changes that my father never disclosed. Because my grandfather, God rest him, wasn't blind. He saw everything. And what he left behind. It was going to shatter every illusion my father had spent his life building. But I'll get to that. Because before I could even open the letter, I got another call. From Claire. And what she said on that call. It changed everything. I didn't pick up when Claire first called. I saw her name flash across the screen, and my instinct was to ignore it. But something told me to listen to the voicemail. Caleb, I know we're not on the best terms, but I need to talk to you. It's about the will. Grandpa's will. Please call me back. It's important. Her voice wasn't its usual clipped, condescending tone. There was something else there, urgency, maybe even panic. I waited 10 minutes before calling back. Not out of pettiness, but because I needed to steady myself. Claire doesn't call unless she needs something. and after everything, I wasn't about to walk blind into whatever trap she was setting. She picked up on the first ring. "Thank God," she said. "I wasn't sure if you'd even talk to me." "Depends," I said, keeping my voice even. "Are you calling to lecture me again? Or is this one of those rare times when I'm allowed to be useful?" She flinched audibly. "I deserve that," she admitted. "But seriously, this is bad. For Dad. And maybe for all of us." I didn't say anything. I wanted her to get to the point. "There's another will," she continued. "One we didn't know about. Grandpa changed it just before he passed. Apparently, the old attorney passed away, and he hired someone new. No one told us. He told me," I said calmly. She went silent. "What?" she asked eventually. "I got a letter. Certified. From the new attorney. Just haven't opened it yet." The line went dead quiet. I imagined her pacing in some perfectly curated room with beige throw pillows and passive-aggressive inspirational quotes on the wall. "Listen," she said, her voice lower now. "Whatever it says, you don't have to." "No," I cut in. "You listen. I don't know what's in that envelope. But I know one thing. Grandpa saw how you all treated me. How you treated Emma. He knew." Claire hesitated. "He was sick, Caleb. He was confused. He was more clear-eyed than any of you." I snapped. "And maybe that's exactly why this is happening." She exhaled shakily. I thought we had time to fix this." "You had years." And then I hung up. That night, after Emma went to bed, I opened the envelope. Inside was a 3-page letter from the attorney and a copy of the new will. The contents made me sit down. In short, my grandfather had left the majority of his remaining estate, estimated at just over $2.1 million, not to my dad, not to Claire, but to me, and to Emma, specifically named, spelled out. He'd created a trust in Emma's name, set up with quarterly payouts to cover education, housing, and future investment accounts once she turned 25. He wrote, in clear legal language, that he was correcting a pattern of generational exclusion and wanted to ensure that the cycle of favoritism, neglect, and silent cruelty ended with him. The letter from the lawyer ended with a line that stuck with me. "Your grandfather said you would understand why he did this, and that you'd know what to do with it." I read those pages 3 times. I didn't cry. Not exactly. But I felt something thaw inside me. He saw us. He saw her. After years of being invisible in that family, we were finally acknowledged. Not as an obligation, not as a guilt-ridden footnote, but as something worth investing in. I spent the next week quietly meeting with the attorney, setting up Emma's trust properly, and ensuring every document was ironclad. The lawyer, an older woman named Evelyn with sharp eyes and no patience for nonsense, was the kind of professional who enjoyed cleaning up generational messes. She didn't blink once when I told her how things had been. "You'd be surprised how often this happens," she said, tapping her pen against the desk. "The overlooked child becomes the sole heir. Seen it a dozen times. Usually the rest of the family loses their minds." "I'm counting on it," I said. She smiled. "Then you're going to enjoy this next part." That next part became my setup. I wasn't going to make a public scene. I wasn't going to throw the will in anyone's face at a family dinner. That would be their move, dramatic, messy, performative. No, I was going to do what my dad always taught me. Plan like a surgeon, cut like a scalpel. First, I made a list of everything my father relied on me for. Turns out, it was longer than I thought. The cloud drive was just the tip. For years, I'd been the default tech support for the whole family. I'd set up their home network, handled the backups for my dad's business files, even maintained a side server he used to store years of tax records and client data for his accounting clients. Stuff he never paid me for, just expected me to handle because you're the tech guy. So I backed it all up onto a clean drive, encrypted it, and then shut everything down remotely. Next, I contacted a few of my father's old clients, people I'd helped over the years as a courtesy. I didn't badmouth him. I just casually mentioned that I'd be offering IT support services on my own now, and that they were free to reach out if they needed anything more modern. A few took the offer immediately. Then came the financial cleanup. I'd been quietly paying off my own debts for the last year, and now, with the trust in place and my own business picking up, I was in a position to finally sever the last tie. A loan my dad had taken out in my name 10 years ago. He'd called it a family favor. I was 25, broke, and naive. He promised he'd pay it off within a year. He made 2 payments, then let it sit, quietly accruing interest, while I took the hit to my credit. I paid it off in full, then requested a copy of the original paperwork. Turned out the address on the loan didn't match mine. Neither did the phone number. It was enough to raise questions. Enough to send to a financial compliance officer if I wanted to. I didn't yet. I just filed it away. Because revenge isn't about fire. It's about pressure. Quiet, unrelenting pressure. Let them squirm. And just when I had everything in place, something wild happened. Emma got an invitation. It was a postcard-style card, bright pink with glittery letters. You're invited. Grandma's 60th birthday bash. Dinner and dancing. It had RSVP info, a location, and in the bottom right corner, family only. I almost laughed. The timing couldn't have been more perfect. It was Claire, obviously. A last-ditch attempt to test the waters. To see if I'd come crawling back after weeks of silence. But instead of burning the invitation, I scanned it. Filed it in my folder of family nonsense. Then I emailed Evelyn. I'd like the trust activation date to fall on the same weekend, I wrote. She replied 1 hour later. Done. Should we notify the other parties? No, I replied. Let them find out the hard way. And so the final piece was set. But before I made my move, I needed one more thing. Closure. Not from them. From myself. So I took Emma to the cemetery. We visited Grandpa's grave. She carried a bouquet of sunflowers because she said they looked like happy stars. We stood there in silence for a few minutes. Then I knelt down and whispered, "Thank you. For seeing us. For believing in us." Emma tugged my sleeve. "Can I say something too?" I nodded. She placed a small rock on his headstone and said, "I'm gonna be someone awesome. Just watch." I smiled. Because I believed her. The stage was set. The trap was quiet. Elegant. Surgical. And it was going to hit them exactly where it hurt the most. Not in public. Not with drama. But in the one place they'd always felt untouchable. Their legacy. And the night of that birthday party? That was when the curtain would rise. The night of my mother's 60th birthday party came with more spectacle than I expected, and more fallout than any of them were prepared for. Claire had spared no expense. The venue was one of those faux classy banquet halls just outside the city. All chandelier lighting, champagne towers, and gold accents that looked better on Instagram than in real life. Parking attendants in red vests ushered luxury cars into neatly spaced rows. I saw my dad's Bentley, the one he loved more than most people, parked out front, polished to a mirror shine. Emma and I weren't invited, of course, but I had no interest in being there physically. Instead, I made my move from home, with a glass of wine in one hand and my laptop open in front of me. The first domino fell at 6:42 p.m. That's when Evelyn, my grandfather's attorney, sent out a batch of formal notifications via email and certified mail, timed perfectly to arrive during the party. The subject line read, "Execution of updated will, Frederick Lewis." And in the body of the message was a short, sterile summary of the contents, followed by a formal notification that control of Frederick Lewis's estate had been passed entirely to his grandson, Caleb, and great-granddaughter, Emma. Claire saw it first. I know because her email was on the CC list, and 5 minutes later I got a call. I didn't answer. Then my mom tried, followed by Nick. And finally my dad. The man who had once told my daughter she wasn't real family was now staring down a future where his own father had cut him out, completely. Because of her. Because of us. And that wasn't even the main course. At 7:05 p.m., the second domino dropped. Remember those encrypted backups I made? The ones with all my father's tax records, client files, business write-offs, and years of conveniently overlooked transactions? I hadn't gone public with them. I wasn't that reckless. But I did send them, anonymously, to 3 separate entities. A financial oversight board connected to his professional license. His largest client, who just happened to be a real estate developer with very strict audit policies. And an old friend of mine who now worked in forensic accounting, for fun. I didn't frame it as revenge. I framed it as protection. Because if someone else found those discrepancies before he cleaned them up, well, they'd assume I had been involved. And I wasn't going down with him. I wasn't even going near the boat. At 7:38 p.m., the third and final domino fell, not digital this time, but personal. A delivery driver arrived at the venue with a small, hand-wrapped gift box and a note. Inside the box was a simple wooden picture frame. And in the frame, a photo of my daughter. Taken the day she was born, her tiny fingers wrapped around my thumb, with my grandfather, white-haired and smiling gently. looking down at her like she was the most important thing in the world. On the back of the photo, written in my grandfather's careful cursive, was one line: Real family. The note attached to the package read, "You excluded her. He didn't. This is your legacy now, not mine." I'm told my father turned red, then white, then stood up and walked out without saying a word. Claire followed him. My mother stayed behind and cried. They all broke in different directions. And I took Emma for ice cream. We went to our favorite place, the one with the bubblegum pink booths and comic books on the wall. She wore her sparkly space princess hoodie and ordered a triple scoop with rainbow sprinkles. "Did something happen tonight?" she asked, licking the spoon. I smiled. "Yeah, something big. Is Grandpa still mad at us?" I thought about it for a second, then said, "No, he's just finally realizing who we are." She looked up, confused. "Who are we?" And I leaned in close, my voice soft and sure. "The ones who got out." Because that's what it was, in the end. Not just revenge. Not just a reversal of fortune. It was an escape from a cycle that had chewed through generations. The favoritism, the manipulation, the quiet cruelty dressed up as tradition. It ended with me, with Emma. In the weeks that followed, the fallout spread like a controlled burn. My dad lost 2 major clients. Rumors about an internal audit swirled until his assistant quietly resigned. The financial board opened an inquiry into his records, and though nothing criminal happened yet, the reputation hit alone cost him business. Claire stopped posting on Facebook. The inspirational quotes disappeared. So did the family photo albums. At first, she tried to spin it, said I had manipulated Grandpa in his final days. But the will was clear. Dated. Witnessed. Legal. And the trust? Ironclad. Mom tried to call again. This time she left a voicemail crying, asking to see Emma. I didn't respond. Not because I hate her, but because she stood by while it happened. Again and again. Forgiveness is something you earn, not something you beg for at the 11th hour. Eventually, they all stopped trying. The silence was strange at first, then peaceful. I used part of the trust to buy a small house on the edge of town. Nothing flashy, just enough space for me and Emma, with a garden she immediately claimed as her fairy jungle. I invested the rest wisely, under Evelyn's guidance, and put the bulk away for Emma's future. She started piano lessons, joined a science club, made 2 new best friends who think her glitter boots are super cool. And me? I started sleeping through the night again. Not because I got even, but because I let go. Because I broke free. Because I didn't just burn a bridge. I built something better on the other side. And that, I realized, was the real revenge. Not the money, not the fallout, but the life they never thought I could build. The family they told me I didn't have. The joy they tried to bury under silence and shame. We rose. We thrived. We left them behind. And we never looked back.